Welcome back, everybody, to the Internal Compass podcast, the podcast where I, your host, Samuel Archambault, is trying to help you the best he can to better manage your pain, try to realign yourself from inside out so you can live a better life. So, in this episode of the podcast, we will address something perhaps a little bit more serious, but very important to understand, and I think fascinating when it comes to connecting how we feel in the moment present and what happens to us previously. So I will refer most of today's episode. I'm going to refer to this one specific study that's actually still ongoing, being called the ACE study. ACE is an acronym that stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. In other words, childhood trauma. So what's the link between what a child is going to go through as a kid and in a young age, and how does this person is going to evolve and live his or her life later on, especially the link between those experiences and health outcomes. Is that person more likely or less likely to live a healthier and longer life? And if you're probably doubting, or you're probably now thinking that if we're talking about this topic today, there is a link between the two. And perhaps, yes, there is, and a pretty shocking one, actually. And that's why, not that I want to just keep hammering this nail and go deep into this maybe a little more darker and depressive date. But I think it's really important to understand that connection between the two, because if we are more educated about that, then we can share the awareness, the information. Also, at the end, I want to cast a light on the different potential solutions for childhood trauma, exploration, and treatment. I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not an expert on childhood trauma. So today's episode is not about trying to heal your childhood trauma or anything. It's more about opening doors and maybe informing you of what's available out there, so that if you want to continue or even start your own research and your own process of trying to heal that, then at least you'll have something to like start from. And hopefully I can provide that for you today. Even not being an expert, I think I can build and connect the information together so it makes a bit more sense. Before we start, I want to define a little bit more what are the ACE, right? The adverse childhood experiences. Because after that, I'll be talking about a lot of statistics of, okay, those children that has been like evolving over the years. Because yes, this study has been following those people over a long period of time to see like what's going on with those people. We want to know exactly how are those defined, so maybe you can recognize yourself in them or not. That I think that's important, because that study has really specific criteria as if people are they are being part of the study, are they living those adverse childhood experiences, or are they not? Because as much as trauma is a thing, I think it's important also to differentiate normal adversity and those specific experiences. Because the difference, in my opinion, between the two is that adversity is something we will all go through as a child and as an adult. And in some ways, I think this is healthy, because if we can be confronted by adversity, then we will have to make up something, right? We'll have to build some tools, build some resiliency, and therefore we'll become stronger and being able to face those different challenges. And when we become an adult, well, guess what? Those things, they just don't stop like that. Life is a challenge, will always be. And that's normal, because we're here for survival, we're here to thrive. So if we can't learn this basic adversity, then I think it's kind of irrelevant to think that we live in this unicorn world and that nothing will ever happen to us. Those adverse childhood, they are experiences that kind of over exceed the capacity of children to readapt. So of course, this adversity is going to be progressive, or needs to be aggressive. You don't go to the gym and lift like 200 kilo right off the bat, right? You need to start very, very small and build your strength over time. Well, that should be the same thing when it comes to those life challenges. But when life kind of overwhelm you with those different experience, that's where kind of the capacity to your whole body, your whole psyche, and your whole system, your whole organism, it just can't comprehend all of this. And then it becomes something that will have damage on your brain, on your psychological version of you, and overall your body. So that's what I want to talk to you today. So let's go through. There are basically three main categories: abuse, household challenges, and neglect. So pay close attention, because maybe you can count how many of them perhaps you've been going through, because I'm sure that you'll see that 1 out of 8 person in all of those people that were integrated into the study, which was done in the US. So not that you can transpose that to the entire world, but it will be close, have lived at least few of those experiences. So let me go through them. If you go through abuse, in abuse, there is emotional abuse, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. So of course, if you live 3 of them, then you can already count that you have 3 ACE, 3 adverse childhood experiences. Emotional abuse is when a parent, a step parent, or an adult living in your home swore at you, insulted you, put you down, acted in a way that made you afraid, or that you'll be physically hurt. Physical abuse is when someone is throwing something at you, someone is hitting you, pushed, grabbed, slapped. It's so hard that you have marked or that you're being injured. So see, you don't have to be physically hit. It can also be someone that threw something at you that didn't hit you, but that's considered physical. Sexual abuse is when an adult, a relative, a family friend, or a stranger that is at least 5 years older than you is going to touch you in a sexual way, or is trying to have intercourse with you that it's not wanted, right? Household challenges. If your mother has been treated violently, your mother or stepmother was pushed, grabbed, slapped, kicked, bitten, hit with a fist, hit with something hard, repeatedly hit, or ever threatened or hurt knife or gun by your father. So that's a very extensive definition, but maybe that's something you didn't think for, because when we look at our mother being attacked like this is considered one of the ACE. It's an abuse in the household, so drinker, alcoholic, or drug. Mental illness in the household, a household member, so again, that can be your parents, but also your brothers and sisters, was depressed or mentally ill in a household member, or someone in your house attempted suicide, until separation or divorce, or incarcerated house. So basically someone who has been put into prison. So that's in the household challenges. So see, we're already now at 8 different A's. So you can count on if you have one or many, live through one or many of those. And the last one is neglect. Emotional neglect. So someone in your family never or rarely helped you feel important or special, or never or rarely felt love. People in your family never or rarely look out for each other. So it's not only to you, but it's also between the people that are in your family. And the last one is physical neglect. Because there's someone that was never taking physically care of you, cleaning you, you didn't have enough to eat, your parents were too drunk or doing something else so that they couldn't take care of you. So now that we've put a little bit more definition into this, perhaps that you're able to say, okay, I can maybe count now. Have I going through those things? There's a debate right now over if some of those things should be normal and just considered like part of being a child and being raised into a little bit more harsh. No, okay? Just this is not normal. And those things clearly has an impact over the brain and over your whole body. And I want to show you something, or let's say I want to say you thick data over that, just to give you an idea. If you or someone you know, if someone would have more than 4 A's, so 4 or more A's, okay? Now we've listed quite a few of them. If you or someone you know have 4 or more, you are 3 times more subject to. That means you have 3 times more the risk of having the level of lung disease and adult smoking. That means that you're more prone to smoke and have disease in your lungs. 14 times more the risk of attempting suicide. 4.5 times more likely to develop depression. 11 times more the level of drug abuse. The risk that you're going to go through drug abuse. 4 times more as likely to have begun intercourse by the age of 15. So that, of course, is not necessarily bad within itself, but also having intercourse or sex before 15 can lead to sexually transmitted diseases, can lead to unwanted pregnancy, and so on. 2 times the risk level of liver disease. So you see that it has a huge impact in gone through those trauma, because not only it has this effect over your body, but also it rewires your entire brain, and it puts you into this social context that you start to be kind of maybe with people also that are not very recommendable. So in other words, what I want to say here is that aces, they have 3 types of effect. They have biological effect, meaning they have effect over your brain. They literally rewire your brain. And how does your prefrontal cortex, how does your capacity to think rationally, that is being affected, because your brain cannot comprehend at first what is happening to you. So it will affect it in this way. But not only that, it will affect your psychology. Some people that have a lot of aces are more likely to develop, again, depression, and their entire circuit of neurons are not working properly. And of course, it might affect the social aspect of it. So again, if you're more likely to go through some specific behaviors that are risk averse, meaning that you might be more prone to actually do some things that is more risky for you or for your illness. Basically, there is this pyramid that this ACE study shows about people who have a bit more, or let's say, going through those ACEs. They have this disrupted neural development. So as they are a kid and their brain is still malleable, is still building up, and this maturation of the brain doesn't go through the regular phases, meaning that they have registered something that should not have been registered. And that leads to social, emotional, and cognitive. In other words, it's not only in your head or in that person's head, it is neurological. Your brain doesn't function as it would normally function without you going through. And now I say you, it's not necessarily you who are watching or listening to me, but it's more to those people who have gone through different ACEs. And then we might go further by saying that, yes, adoption of health risk, to give you a good example, with that kind of trauma makes you more at risk to start, as I said, right, 11 times more likely to use intravenous drugs. So of course, if you're doing that kind of behavior, that can definitely and will have an effect on your life. That might create disease, disability, social problems. Think about it this way. If you push it a bit further and you have this impairment with your brain, and now to try to cope because you did not build a proper coping mechanism, then you start using drugs, and then that person might hang out with people that are using drugs, and then that might lead you to get into trouble with justice and to bring you into this social groups that you don't really want to be part of. Maybe you start spending more your money on drugs, and that might create illnesses or disease that result of misabusing those different drugs. So you see that it has this ripple effect. It's not necessarily this one. Those ACEs are directly equal to, let's say, pain, disability, and even early death. But there is this kind of domino effect that one step leads to another one, that leads to another one. And unfortunately, that's the reality. Just to give you an idea, I was saying at the beginning that 1 out of 8 people in the population have more than 4 ACEs. 1 out of 8. That's insane. People with 6 or more ACEs, or so 6 or more of those, they are more likely to die 20 years in average younger, meaning that people who have gone through those childhood traumas, they are much more likely to live 20 years. Imagine that. Because most of people end up either taking their life or having so many diseases because of or illnesses, or become mentally ill, and it's kind of this downward spiral. So you see here again, I don't want to just reinforce that, oh my God, we're in this society where everybody's traumatized. It's not that. It's just that if right now you have pain, you have some symptoms that somehow you can't understand why. You try to figure out, is it this joint? Is it that? And you know that in your childhood, you've been going through those experiences. It's not necessarily an automatic connection, but you can think that you're more prone to, maybe you're more at risk to feel those symptoms and to be living this pain. It's definitely more complex than that, but you get the idea that just by having this awareness tells you, then maybe there's something else to do other than that. 67% of the population has at least one ACE. That's more than 1 out of 2. It's actually 2 out of 3 people. So look at people around you. Think about the people in your life have at least one. So what do we do with this? How do we, if we are, most of us are going through this, and if now that we understand the potential effect on our health, what can we do? What can we do about that? Well, basically, I want to use this biopsycho social model to approach this in a little bit more pragmatic, or let's say different tools that we can use. And again, here, I'm not saying that you should absolutely do this one or that one. I'm not an expert on this, but I want to maybe open the doors for you for some potential strategies that you can use. So for the biology one, yes, there is a way to try to rewire your brain. And this can be approached many different ways. Your entire lifestyle and just life and health hygiene, working out, eating better, sleeping better, reducing your stress level, all of those things is going to support you into that. Because yes, lifestyle like approaches such as if you start eating better, it has an impact on your brain. If you start working out better, it has an impact on your brain. It will release that serotonin and make you feel better. It will increase the quality of your neurotransmitters. So of course there is a place for that. But again, is this all you have to do to resolve childhood trauma? Of course not. Is it one piece that you can use and start with? I would say absolutely. There is another approach called neurofeedback and biofeedback. That's where some electrodes are put over your brain, and that specific impulse are thrown over your brain and kind of tries to rewire your brain. That's actually under development. It, after only a few sessions, it looks very interesting. I think that there is, the more the science is going to back this up. Right now, I think it's in emerging fields. So if you're curious into that, you can Google neurofeedback or biofeedback, something to look forward to. Anything that kind of connects your mind to your body, yoga, manual therapy, massage, breathing, all of those things also can help you and support you into dealing with those adverse childhood. And of course, when appropriated, medication. Again, make sure that you're followed by a good doctor who knows you and who can recommend you and prescribe you the right medication for you. Then if we go more into the psychological part, anything that relates to mindfulness and awareness, meditation, there is very good data right now that shows that being able to disconnect from that fear, from those very high emotional response that you might have because of some specific situation, that can definitely also help you to, again, support you into this, right? There is no one approach. Maybe it will probably be a combination of those one. And that's where it becomes very useful to have someone who guide you into this and to make you try one thing. Okay, this works. Let's add another thing, right? So meditation and mindfulness, very good. So far, we've shown that reading the latest book on the topic has taught me that talk therapy, so basically like psychotherapy, has its good effect, but it's not necessarily the one magic pill for everything. So maybe if you have the chance to maybe have access to someone who works a bit more specifically with trauma focus psychotherapy, those people, especially if they're comfortable with some techniques called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, very complicated, but short terms for this is EMDR. Those are kind of treatments that makes your eyes move in different direction and actually can reset your nervous system. That can so far shows interesting data. And then IFS, internal family system. That's kind of another way in psychotherapy being used that some people around you might playing the role of some specific people in your family, and therefore you can kind of go through some specific situations that were very challenging for you, and therefore doing it in a safe environment and kind of processing that. So internal family system and EMDR for psychotherapy, like talking therapy, also very important and a good way to start. And the last part I want to talk about is this support, the social piece. So of course, having access to those different professionals around you, that's very important, and as well having a group support that is not going to put you down. I think the one really important part here is that people who have been experiencing those different adverse childhood experiences needs to have this feeling of safety, needs to be around people that they have a relationship that they trust, a relationship they can count on. So that's really important when we talk about rehabilitation of trauma, having people that you can surround yourself with, that you trust and that you feel safe. So see, trauma is very complicated, something very serious also, I believe. But hopefully after today, I've been able to make you a little bit more aware of the potential and that the devastating effect of childhood trauma over our health and over the potential that it has to make you feel some specific pain or go through some illnesses or suffer some diseases, and then what may be some potential solutions that you can start looking into. So hopefully I wish you a good day, and I wish you maybe a good reflection over all that. And just on a personal note, if you are someone who has been going through one or many of those different adverse experiences, I just wanted to let you know that you're okay. I really hope that you're able to find a solution for you. And I think it's worth it to try to address those things, even if they're really, really hard, because that's the best thing you could ever do for yourself, to try to heal that and also not to transmit that to any other people around you. So I wish you, with all my love, I wish you that you're able to, one step at a time, maybe address this. And if you haven't yet and you feel the need, please reach out for help. I'm sure there is someone out there that will be able to help you. On that note, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you haven't done so, just please write me a comment on YouTube. Follow me on my chain. You can also leave a review on Apple Podcast, or just a small note and evaluation on Spotify. That's always appreciated. And on that note, I will see you in 2 weeks for another episode of the Internal Compass podcast.